Hello, and welcome to Lore Watch, a roundtable freeform discussion about lore and your favorite media. I'm your host, Joe Perez, one of several lore-focused folks from Blizzard Watch, and I've got my, I would say epic Godzilla-esque co-host with me, Matt Rossi, but I don't know what the actual epithet I would give you would be, so you can choose your own.
I think it's legendary now. It's a legendary verse. That's what they're doing in the States.
Yeah, I think it's all done by Legendary in the States now. For those of you at home, you should listen to our main cast sometimes. Matt has been back on the Godzilla kick, and I can't say I blame him.
Yeah, it's a nice thing to be watching, gigantic monsters destroying everything instead of, say, the reality of the situation. Because at least the giant monsters do funny things like curl up inside the Coliseum for a nap.
Because they're cats.
Or punch a big ape with a... Yeah. There's two apes. I guess there's more than two apes.
There's a whole civilization
I don't even know.
Now.
King Kong's got his whole, he's got a friendly group of gorilla people that I guess he has to beat up one of them, but then he gets to have the rest of them as his gorilla family, I guess. We're rapidly approaching synergy between Donkey Kong and King Kong, where they could each bring their family to some kind of meeting. Of course, Donkey Kong is much smaller than King Kong.
And King Kong has a giant cybernetic arm. It's
not really cybernetic. It is a glove, but he doesn't actually lose his hand. He just gets really hurt. So it's more like what are those casts you can get to help you, when you've hurt your hand?
Oh, fair.
And yeah, so it's not. I mean, it does still increase his punching power stuff because, of course, the giant gorilla needs a big metal glove to punch things even harder with. Because King Kong known for not punching hard enough. But yeah, it's a thing. We should talk about something else, or otherwise, I will not be able to stop.
As you can tell, folks, there will probably be a Godzilla episode in the future on the horizon because this is going to come to a head at some point. But today
we're going to talk about the eras.
Yeah. This one, today we're going to be talking about questions from you, our wonderful listeners. Again, as a reminder, if you have questions for this or any of our podcasts, I want you to go ahead and send those in. You can send them into podcast@blizzardwatch.com. Specify the show that it is for in the subject line, as well as any special pronunciation of your name. If you have no access to email or you don't want to send us an email, you can hit us up on Discord. We have the Q and Podcast Questions channel, which we set aside for everyone. And then if you are a Patreon subscriber, we have the Patreon Q and Podcast Questions channel, where we tend to look there first as a way of saying thank you to all of our wonderful listeners for helping us keep the lights on. And then if you don't want to send us an email and don't want to hit us up on Discord, you can always send that into Patreon as well. We will get those messages from Liz. We just ask that you do the exact same thing. Tell us the show that it is for and any special pronunciation of your name. Without further ado, let's get into the first question. And this one comes from One Up versus CPU, which is, we don't know much about Midnight, so it's a perfect time for wild speculation. Since we're going to Silvermoon, do you think the Sunwell will be involved? I was thinking maybe Xal'atath could turn it into a Voidwell for void-related activities. Is that even possible? I don't know why, but this is a non sequitur, maybe a little aside. When you said for void-related activities, I heard it in the Hank Hill voice for void and void-related activities, because I don't know why, I just did.
I don't know. Void and void-related activity. I'm the strong guy. Sorry.
Dang it, Xal'atath. Anyway, yes, we're probably going to have something involving the Sunwell, right? The Sunwell is pretty central to Silvermoon in general. It is one of the things that has popped up in story a lot, their existence and sort of like why they're where they are. And while it may not be exactly right there inside of the major city, they owe their existence.
It's just off the coast, man.
It's close enough.
This is like saying that it's in Staten Island, so it doesn't really count. No, it counts, man. It's right there.
Depends on who you ask from New York. Anyway,
I know, but that's exactly my problem with them. The crazy.
But the idea that we would go there and there wouldn't be anything involved with the Sunwell it would be weird, right? It's a huge font of cosmic energy. Like, that's what it is. And Xal'atath seems to be hunting for that right now, right? Sorry, go ahead, Matt.
All I'll say is, I mean, in terms of the second question, is that even possible? I mean, anything they want to say is possible. They can write whatever they want. But in terms of what's already been established, the current Sunwell has a big old Naru thing stuck in the middle of it.
Yeah.
And Naru go void all the time.
Yep.
This Naru went void before we put him in the Sunwell. There's a whole thing where we fought him. He ruined guilds. He ended guilds, man. He was something. So yeah, it's quite possible because we've literally fought him. He was void. We unvoided him by beating him up, and then we stuck him in the Sunwell. Yeah, I don't see why he couldn't. I don't see why the Sunwell couldn't go void. It could start flipping between the two for all I know. We've seen that with that big crystal in the Holofoss. I want to say Holofoss.
Bellameth, or not Bellameth.
Yeah,
Belladar.
Bellameth is the crystal. But the zone is
Bellameth is the zone for the new elf city. Belladar is the
crystal. Yeah. What's the zone though?
Hollowfall.
Yeah. So I mean, right there, that thing keeps going from light to void and back. Who knows? Why couldn't the Sunwell? That seems quite possible.
Mild spoilers for the current content tier patch that's on retail right now, so come back in like 3 minutes if you haven't caught up yet with the storyline of Undermine, because this actually relates. The damaged dark heart or void heart that we busted Khadgar out of, well, we found out that Xal'atath went to Gallywix to get it repaired, because apparently the goblins knew a way to go ahead and get that done. But then we saw a whole bunch of void ethereals show up. These are the absolutionists that we've encountered a few times before, that wanted to see the entire universe burn down to ash. We've been dealing with them since we went to Argus, really. Came and took it. So she doesn't have her dark heart anymore. She doesn't have her void heart. And what do you need when you have, to me, a crystal-based object that's capable of absorbing a metric ton of energy, possibly void-based energy? Well, like Matt just pointed out, we literally have one at the center of the current Sunwell. So why wouldn't Xal'atath try to go get that piece if she can't get her original dark heart back? We don't know if she'll be able to get the void heart back or not. But
I mean, I certainly would love to go on the adventure where Xal'atath raids the void ethereals. It's like, wow, okay. Is this like a heist movie? We could totally do a heist movie about this.
I mean, don't get me wrong. I'm calling it now that we're going to get into, it is going to be a heist, but it's going to be us racing against Xal'atath to get the void heart back. It's going to be like a simultaneous thing. Like, you remember in Battle for Azeroth where the Alliance and the Horde split up and went to different sides?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's going to be kind of like that, except Xal'atath and us racing against each other Grand Prix style. So that's my hot take. We'll see if we come back to it and I hit that prediction. But
see, here I am in this weird position, like where I very much would like to see us go to the Sunwell and do all sorts of Sunwell related hijinks. That'd be great. I'd totally be down for Xal'atath going to steal that. But I want to go to Caresh real bad.
Yeah, and I think we are. I think that's where we're going to wind up in midnight.
Yeah. So what I would like to see is we go to Caresh, we find out if Dimensius is dead or if is in fact went back there and is still Dimensionising it up. There's a lot I would like to see on that place. What is Locust Walker's deal, man? What is your deal? You are clearly voidy, yet you seem to be on our side. What's going on with you, Locust Walker? So yeah, that's stuff I would like. As much as I totally do want to go to the Sunwell again, and I do think you're totally right in that if she can't get her heart back, that's got to be at least on your list of things that you could be used in this way. That's got to be on it, right?
Yeah,
it is literally a Naru chunk.
Well, because I'm thinking about it too, right? Because on the list of things that Xal'atath can do right now, it's kind of a lot of the options have been closing off now that I'm thinking about it. In Dragonflight, we reconciled the Bronze Dragonflight and the Infinite Dragon, right? We literally spent an entire quasi content release drop doing remists where it was both the Bronze and the Infinite taking us back in time, which again, at a specific point where void related activities were happening, dark, evil, old god stuff. I don't think that was an accident, by the way. I think that was intentional. But Xal'atath can't go back in time really anymore. She doesn't necessarily have that ability, at least that we know of. Beforehand, the only reason she got back there when we literally went back to Eridikron's downfall, or not Eridikron's downfall. Why can't I think of the big googly like monster that all the dragons fought. Galakrond. There we go.
Galakrond, yep.
Got there in the end, folks. Galakrond's downfall, to watch Iridikron grab all that energy into the Void Heart. Part of that was basically because they were led there by the Infinite Dragonflight. That avenue is now closed, or at least we assume it's closed, which means that Xal'atath can't just go back in time and get the Void Heart again.
Well, I mean, there are still members of the Infinite Dragonflight who decided they don't like this thing that they're doing. There's not all on board.
Yeah.
So you could get some, but I get what you're saying. I just think it is not entirely impossible.
Fair, and it might not be entirely impossible. I think it is more unlikely. I think it's much more likely for her to be looking for incredible power sources that are currently available and easier to get her undead hands on. And the Sunwell is probably up there among them, because what other options are really truly available at this point? Dalaran's gone. We don't know what treasures got scattered to the wind there, so there might be options there. She could try to assault Karazhan. That's one of the few places on Azeroth that I don't see that going well for her.
Yeah, that doesn't sound like a very good idea.
Like the at the very least, whatever the current incarnation of Medivh is chilling there. And while Khadgar is definitely a very powerful mage, Medivh is no longer bound by that which is mortality, and has never been bound by that which is morality. And it's his home turf. I don't think.
Yeah, and plus, there's a reason that Karazhan is so messed up.
Yeah,
the ley lines that meet there twist space time, and they are ridiculously potent. They are potent to the point that when all the other ley lines are getting pulled to Northrend, the ones under Karazhan did not go anywhere.
They didn't even budge.
They were like, "No, we're staying here." It's quite possible that it's a natural ley line nexus. It's not one that was created by anybody, including the Dragonflights. It might be power from before the Titans even showed up on Azeroth. It might be one of the original ones, which would definitely mean that it's not to be trifled with. And it seems to have a personality. Like it seems to choose people. Like it liked Khadgar. It approved of him, so it let him hang around. There's a lot to Karazhan. The fact that the place literally came into existence in a giant anti-explosion. It's like literally there was a big explosion and then there's a tower there.
Yeah, I maintain that the only reason we've gotten any artifacts or anything out of there is because Karazhan and or Medivh wanted us to, and that is the only reason we got that stuff out of there.
Yeah, and it's entirely possible that the reason that Medivh is the way he is now, whatever he is now, is that Karazhan decided it missed its friend. Because Medivh was the only person to go there and just kind of like settle in. Nobody else. It as many times has been said, it felt to many that the tower was literally born for Medivh. Like it came into existence so Medivh would have a place to go. So yeah, who knows?
Yeah.
Maybe sometime in the future, Medivh is going to do something that makes Karazhan travel back in time and exist. No idea.
But regardless, I don't think that Xal'atath would have an easy or any sort of time trying to assault that or getting anything out of there. I mean, the Legion got a foothold in a small section of it because they found out that it was touching a piece of the twisting nether that they could exploit.
Yeah, but even then, what did they do? They got to like the roof, and then they sent some guys inside who didn't accomplish much of anything.
They didn't even really send anybody inside. They couldn't get past the door.
Yeah, because there was the big chess game that apparently you couldn't get through.
Yeah.
So yeah, I don't know, man. I mean, there were some ethereals in the lower levels, but you kind of get the feeling like ethereals and Karazhan would be okay with each other. Like at least normal ethereals. Like
yeah,
they're not.
They would probably go to war against the void ethereals. There's definitely no love lost there. But
yeah,
regardless, I think that Xal'atath would be, if Karazhan is a living entity, the white blood cells of Karazhan would repel it before probably Medivh even got to lift a finger. The interesting thing, though, I think now that we're talking about this, is that there are other options for very powerful things that exist in Azeroth that Xal'atath could go after. The Sunwell just seems like the most powerful. It's probably the top of the list because the Eye of Aman'Thul's gone, right?
Yeah. Ooh, but there's another reason why she might look to the Sunwell. Her body held Felameth. She's a highly placed. The physical body she is currently riding around in is a highly placed Blood Elf mage that is dead, and as a result, it could inside the memory of that body. Which you're going to tell me? Is that going to tell me Xal'atath can't tap into the mind of that thing? I do not believe that. In the mind of Xal'atath could be all the security measures that are kept around the Sunwell. She could basically have a roadmap on how to get in, which I think is worth considering. If you're going to do something to get a lot of power, you're going to do things where you can. When she took on the form of that one guy, I can't remember, but the one that like everybody was like, he's dead. Why is he here?
Drendon.
She learned everything he knew, right?
Drendon, yeah.
Yeah, Drendon. She knew everything Drendon knew. Why wouldn't she know everything the current host body that she has knew? And if she learns everything it knew, then she'd have at least much better odds of getting in. So why pick someplace else? You know? Why try to get the stones from Ashara, like the one that she stole? We've got the other ones too, right? I guess the Eye of Aman'Thul still exists because we took it and used it as one of the 4 pillars of creation, right?
Yeah,
I recall it.
But I was still unclear about this because we went back and used them in their capacity.
It's the Nightwell. We got rid of the Nightwell.
We did get rid of the Nightwell
by the Eye of Aman'Thul.
Yeah, we got rid of the Nightwell, which was the Eye of Aman'Thul. But I guess maybe this is something we haven't had clarification on is what happened with the Pillars of Creation after we were done. We know that the Tidestone was scooped up by Ashara, but also she did nothing else with it afterwards, which seems a little bit weird. The Tear of Elune had to be recreated because it was either corrupted or completely gone and used up. The hammer was still chilling in Dalaran, but we don't know if it had also been spent. And the Aegis had been burned as well because we had used it inside of the temple. We used the energy of everything in our pursuit to basically fight back the Legion. So the question is, did all of those items still retain their power? Did everything still have that level of cosmic energy that she would be potentially even interested in? Or does it still have the capacity to be charged? Go ahead.
I mean, I'm looking at like various sources here. As far as I know, they used it to seal off the portal. That doesn't mean that it's dead. It's just currently sealing off the portal. But that's an interesting point is if Ashara could then come in and take the Tidestone. And keep in mind, we used the Tidestone too, and she just came and took it, and she did use it again. That's how she created that huge wall of water in the ocean. She used the Tidestone to do that, so that we could walk around on the area instead of drowning. She did that, so basically to lure us into her raid, because she wanted us to come and bring the Heart of Azeroth. That's the whole weirdness of the what we know about the 4 pillars of creation, is that we know at least one of them still worked and was being used by somebody else, because Ashari did use it. The Eye of Aman'Thul, I don't know. I don't know if it's ever been used again since. I don't know if the hammer has been used again since Hammer of Karazhan. I don't know if it was used. Yeah, but whether or not it still works is completely beyond me. I have no idea. I know that Elisande did time travel stuff without it.
Mm-hmm.
But is that because she just knows so much about time magic now from having the thing for so long? We know that the Nightwell's gone, but we don't. It's really up in the air. I would like to see them give us more information on whether or not the Pillars of Creation still work.
Yeah.
Because it does seem to me that if the Tidestone can still work, and it did still work in Ashara's hands, that means others could. But we definitely need to see more.
We just don't know the efficacy of it, right? We don't know the efficiency or what level of power is left, if it can be recharged. Like the Hammer of Khaz'garath, it's a very powerful. We saw it used, then we used it again, and then it just sat in Dalaran. Like I agree with you. I don't think we saw it used again. So where it is out there, and I would be surprised if it's the only reason I could think that she would not go after those particular artifacts are because they are not capable of doing what she needs. The other interesting thing, and somebody brought this up when I was just kind of like in a random Mythic plus Pug group the other night, which I thought was interesting. Somebody asked, like, when the hell are we going to do anything about the giant Sargeras sword that's still sticking out of Azeroth? We literally start this expansion by like going to talk with Anduin, who's just kind of staring at it. And the interesting thing about that is that's a piece of Titan, right? Like a fully formed Titan. That's a piece of that. Yeah, we sucked a lot of that energy out and made it inert with our legendary artifacts and stuff like that.
Well, did we? We made them inert.
But that's what I was going to say.
All we know about the sword is that we made. I'm sorry, Dan. I know I interrupted you.
No, you're good. You're good. Go with it, man.
Yeah. I just think that in the case of the sword, we know that we drew out the power that it was going to use to poison something, or at least that's what we were told. And that's why our artifacts were going super crazy for a while before they all went inert. And Xal'atath was one of those artifacts.
She sure was.
And therefore would have gone through that experience, which might have been enough for them to get out of the dagger. You know what I'm saying? Like, maybe that's the first step it had to take to free itself. It had to get, bloody heck, I want to say Il'gynoth, but that's not his name. N'Zoth. It had to get N'Zoth's help to finish the job, to free itself completely. But maybe it was getting exposed to that Titan energy, and that would have been really weird, corrupted Titan energy at that, because it was from Sargeras, in order to start the process. And, for all we know, the sword is... I think it's interesting that people keep saying, when are we going to do something about the sword? When are we going to do something about the sword? Imagine if the sword was something that had been placed into Azeroth 10,000 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
Would you be hearing a lot of, when are we going to do something about the sword? Heck, there was a giant sword in the head of an ancient monster, and we left it there for like centuries, eons. The Master's Glaive.
Yep.
We didn't take it out. Why is everyone convinced we're going to take the sword out? This is a thing. Maybe that's a terrible idea for a couple of reasons. Maybe it's like you don't just, if someone gets stabbed in real life, you don't just pull the knife out. You leave it in until you get them to a hospital. Because if you just yank the thing out and there's nobody there to keep the thing from bleeding to death, that's probably what will happen.
Mm-hmm.
We don't know that we want a whole bunch of Azerite came all over the place just from that sword stabbing the planet. Pulling it out might just spray Azerite everywhere. And if the planet loses all its Azerite, does it keep living?
Yeah, but it loops back to going back to Xal'atath, where I don't know that there are other options really available for her that are powerful enough to accomplish, because she got maybe what she already needed from Sargeras' sword, right? Like, as Matt pointed out, it's one of those things that may have been what sparked her ability to be pulled out of the blade and put into another body, because Titans are really good at making stuff. Old gods really aren't. Food for thought.
And it's also the fact that, whether or not it did that, we know that she's different now.
Yeah, she's changed. I think that's there's something there, but I mean, I still struggle to think of anything else powerful enough that she could twist it to become something like that, the Void Heart. Because like, even going to the Nexus and going to the Oculus and places like that, that's not as powerful as it used to be. Go ahead.
Where's the Heart of Azeroth?
Canonically, I don't know.
It wasn't, to my memory, it wasn't in any way, shape, or form destroyed or weakened, like lore-wise. I don't think there's anything about it after we use it.
It's inert now. It's inert after that.
Inert isn't the same as destroyed.
True.
If you wanted to take something that's really good at holding tons of energy, the Heart of Azeroth was absolutely that.
It is it's referred to as a depowered trinket, not a powerful artifact.
Oh, I think that's possible. It's one of the things to think about, especially considering that thing that the jailer was using was basically very similar to the Heart of Azeroth, wasn't it? The thing he was using in his whole quest to turn Azeroth into whatever he was going to do to make it Zereth Ordis. Well, reformat everything.
I said this before, and I'll say this again. I think the entire chamber that we were fighting the jailer in at the end was one giant heart, like the Heart of Azeroth, just at a massive scale, because the centerpiece of it looked exactly like the center of the Heart of Azeroth. The room had a very similar shape to the way that the crenulations were. I think that was also intentional, but that's just me.
Which to me thinks that we could at least. I think there are a few other options. I think that we could, in fact, see her go after one of the pillars of creation if there was one that she really suited to her.
Here's a question for you. How do we know that the Void Heart isn't the Heart of Azeroth already?
We don't. I certainly don't.
Because the Heart of Azeroth was able to absorb Azerite, which is the very essence of a world soul, and this is consuming a whole bunch of power and energy. And she
took the heart. Whatever the Void Heart is, she took it to undermine, to be fixed by goblins.
Mm-hmm.
What's the one substance that goblins know a lot about?
They know a lot about Azerite. Well, Khajiit, but they know a lot about Azerite, because
we know they know about Azerite because they had some
Yep.
before anybody else, and it activated once the planet started being wounded. Like he had a chunk of Gallywix in particular had a chunk of Azerite that he was carrying around with him for years before it actually started doing anything. You're going to tell me he didn't study it?
Well,
Or have somebody else study
we
it?
assume that it didn't do anything. We don't know that for a fact. The way he presented it seems like it might have. Like he may have been getting flashes of inspiration from it the entire time.
At either rate, even if we take on a face value that it wasn't doing anything, we know he would have studied it or had someone else do that if he thought it was too risky for him to do. And if it was giving him ideas, there's absolutely no way he didn't study it personally. I mean, Gallywix has a lot of things. Greedy, malfeasant, pretty close to evil, but he's not stupid. If he's got that thing, he's going to want to know how to make the best use of it. So it's in fact possible. If the Heart of Azeroth is the Void Heart, it makes sense that she would take it to them.
Yeah, and the interesting thing is what is the description we get of the Dark Heart when we first see it, right? Like it is an ancient relic belonging to Neltharion, the Earth Warder, that has been imbued with the primal hunger of Galakrond, which is what allows it to absorb magical power of various types and convert it into shadow. Sounds a lot like what the Heart of Azeroth was, just not the conversion part.
The other thing is, it might not be the heart that we used, but it's a relic that Neltharion had, and that Iridikron, invested with the power of Galakrond. If Neltharion, go ahead.
We know there have been other speakers. Magni was not the first. We know now. Nope. We know now that there was a whole class of Earthen that were like Magni, that were the whole reason why Earthen were made into the form that they're currently in right now, and why, like, if you do the discs, the disc stuff to get the archives online and go through the storyline, the Titans and Titan Watchers didn't want them doing that. They wanted them to do their programming. They wanted them to essentially be prisoners. They didn't want them to have free will, so they kind of took that away from them. But before that, there were a whole bunch of Magnis running around. There were a whole bunch of ones that were listening to the song of Azeroth. This technology, this connection to Azeroth existed before the Heart of Azeroth was created. It could be one of those ancient relics that, Neltharion came across pretty easily, right? Like there's nothing that says that
they're buried under the earth. That was what he was doing.
That's his domain.
Yeah.
Just throwing that out there too. That'd be wild.
I also will point out that when Chromie looks at the Dark Heart before it gets fully made, she states that it resembles the Dragon Soul, but even more ancient.
Yeah, there you go.
And it's like if Neltharion had this thing and was using it as a template when he created the Dragon Soul, that means that it is inherently good at holding power. Because the Dragon Soul, that's what the Dragon Soul was. It was a big reservoir of the power of 4 of the 5 members of the original, dragon, aspects. So yeah, this thing, it keeps coming back around to the idea that, keep in mind a lot of dragon stuff is Titan stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of Titan stuff is the stuff that got corrupted by people like Neltharion to get used for the purposes of the old gods, which means void ultimately, even if the old gods themselves aren't the ones. It is really weird to think about. If you look at the thing, it does look an awful lot like the Heart of Azeroth.
It does.
Like it really does. So yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, and then going back to the whole thing with Xal'atath, my theory in this, again, slight spoilers here, with Phase Thief Azir taking it, is that, like, going back to the original thing, we're going to wind up on Caresh. I think that's the ultimate goal, right? Caresh is the largest concentration of void energy, period. We know that. We know that for a fact. If this thing is made to consume energy and empower the person that's wielding it, or allowing them to do whatever, why wouldn't you go there? Unless they're looking to consume other things and then dump it into that to make it larger, like the Eye of Terror and 40K before it became the Giant Ring. But yeah, so I think she'd be looking for a way to catch up with the Phase Thief Azir and try to find a power source that will let her travel, because again, she's been just kind of chilling on Azeroth. She hasn't gone anywhere. So she very clearly can't, or at least won't. There's got to be a reason why. And I don't think it's just because of the Dark Heart. But yeah, I think
that makes sense.
But I think Sunwell is the most likely candidate, right? I think that the Sunwell, even if not, right, even if not using it as a thing for, oh God, here we go. Even if not using it for making a new Darkheart, what was the Sunwell used for before? Who did we fight there?
I mean, we fought Kill Jaden.
Who was coming out of the Sunwell because why?
Because he made a giant portal there. It's one of the few places you can make a portal like that, which is why the only other option in my mind is the Tomb of Sargeras / Temple of Velen.
Right. So she can't get to the Temple of Velen easily, or doesn't want to, but can get to the Sunwell easy because, going to your point, this happens to be a high elf body that she's in, a sun or blood elf body, a high mage that has probably intimate knowledge of this. Even if she's not going for it to be void related activities, it can still be used as a portal. And if she can't get off this rock to go get what she wants or what she needs or what's been taken from her, that's a real good way to do that, isn't it?
I mean, it's one of the places on Azeroth that would be relatively well suited to that. There are a few other places, but we've already kind of covered why they're not necessarily useful. It's not like she wants to go and fight Azshara.
No.
To see if she's got, Azshara certainly has the expertise to get a portal open, and I could see Azshara being willing to deal with Xal'atath, but you're not going to bully Azshara into doing anything. And she's very wary of Void and Old Gods because of her, she spent however many years forced to work for one, but also at the same time betraying him constantly.
You also can't tell me that Xal'atath is not on the radar of Azshara.
No, absolutely. I do not believe that for a second.
So, she has to know of her. She has to know of her existence. She has to know of her whereabouts, at least somewhat, and maybe not exactly. But again, we've talked about this before. Azshara is oddly absent and has been since we dealt with her, really. Well, since we freed her.
Yeah, since we freed her from Xal'atath's, imprisonment. Not Xal'atath, sorry, N'Zoth. Ever since we freed her from N'Zoth and she handed over the dagger, we don't know what she's up to. She went and reclaimed rule of the Naga, which was kind of like nobody had stepped up because that nobody wants to try and do that.
Yeah.
Everyone's like, a bunch of Nagas sitting around going, so we just wait for her, right? I'm not near that throne. No. Oh, well, I could. Nope. You guys are.
I like my insides being inside.
Yes. None of her generals are going to try because they were all male. None of the Tide Sisters are. No. There's nobody that dumb.
The only one that would have been is canonically killed, right? We killed her in SSC.
Yeah. That's the only one, Lady Vosh. Although Lady Vosh is currently in the Shadowlands. We've spoken to her. We've dealt with her. She could theoretically decide, I'm going to violate everything that I'm currently involved in, but I don't see her doing that. I think she kind of likes her role in the Shadowlands better than she ever did her life on Azeroth. I don't see Vosh coming back. So maybe there's really nobody currently that would want to even try.
Yeah, and I'm trying to think of what other places would have potentially the power to
Caverns of Time. She's that would mean facing off directly against the Caverns dragons.
Of Time. The Caverns of Time would let her go back in time potentially.
Yes, which would let her go to a place where she could go to the original, the original I want to say Well of Azeroth, but that's not what it's called.
Well of Eternity.
Well of Eternity. Thank you. Wow, brain would not work. But she could go to the original Well of Eternity and try to do something there. That's certainly one possibility. In terms of fonts of power, they don't get much more fonty and powerful than a gigantic lake full of Titan blood. She could try that. There's lots of other places she could try to get to. She could go back to Dalaran before she destroyed it and then steal their power again, I guess. I don't think time paradoxes are going to really upset Xal'atath too much. Mm-mm. So that's one possibility, but she would definitely have to fight the combined power of the Bronze and what infinite dragons have joined them. And I don't see that being something she'd want to do if she didn't have to. If there's an easier source, she's not going to go through all that rigmarole. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I think that there's various places on Azeroth. We've already counted out the original Temple of Elune, and I don't think she's going to want to go step to Elune in her current temple in Belameth. There's just not a lot of options in terms of places where she knows enough about to get in, is free enough to. Why else would she have gone to the goblins in the first place? It's not like the goblins are the best artificers on Azeroth who make Elementium plates for Deathwing or nothing.
Yeah.
Oh wait, they did do that.
Yeah.
So I'm saying that I feel like the Sunwell is near the top of the list. The only reason I'm not saying it's at the top of the list is we don't know what the Arathi Empire has.
That's the other thing that I was going to get into as well. Like it's the large unknown. It relates to a later question that we have here from Scribbly.
You want to just ask that question?
Well,
now
because it's a little bit different, but we know that they have a game that they played, Light's Gambit, which is their version of essentially chess, right? We don't know what the Arathi Empire really is yet. Theron hasn't really told us, and neither has anybody else there. We know that it exists, but we don't know the inner workings of it.
And why would they bring that up? Because they're not even there, and they have current things to deal with. Of course, they're not going to stop and go, but here's the exposition about where we're from.
But then it leads us to other questions, too. Like, they talk about the Emperor and being able to wield the light and call upon it in a way that is more than everybody else. There's a closeness with the light there. We don't know what artifacts we have, or they have. We don't know if they have their own version of a light well that, is essentially like the Sunwell, but just made out of pure light cascading down from that plane of existence. I've made the point before that Azeroth is a special place because it seems like it's where all the forces of the universe touch equally. We've found portals everywhere except like the realm of light, really. We've gone to the realm of nature. We've gone to the various elemental realms. We've gone to the Shadowlands. We've gone to the Emerald Dream. We've gone to the plane of order. That's what Zereth Mortis really is, right? It essentially is that plane of order as far as I'm concerned. And it literally, its function was ordering the cosmos and setting things in motion. The only place we haven't really found is like, where do you go to get to touch the plane of light? Maybe the Arathi have settled there. Maybe there's a powerful relic or something that operates as a gateway between that realm and Azeroth that allows the light to bathe us, that allows the Naru to essentially easily come to Azeroth, because it seems like a ton of them have been here, a lot of them, and it's not just because they crash landed in a ship. Well, that's some of them, but it makes me wonder if there's something there that we don't know about, and if we don't know about it, does Xal'atath know it? And can Xal'atath even go there? Is it a place so anathema to her that she cannot physically go there? Because we talk about, or at least you talked about in the past, with the light and void being so diametrically opposed, not necessarily that they would destroy each other, but there is definitely a correlation there between light and shadow wiping each other out in equal measure.
Yeah, in some cases, it's said that it creates fel. That's one of the reasons that the fel actually would grab people's souls and use them in soul engines, because the complete destruction of a soul in that way would create actual fel energy. That's been in the lore for a while, but it's never been like, we don't know to how much that we should take that into account. It's in Chronicle that in Chronicle it's stated that the void is actually created by the light. The light existed, and then there were eddies within the light, and those eddies became the home of the void. And that's, we've seen that since then, that Chronicle can't necessarily be taken as, it's not objective, it's from a point of view. And that's the Chronicles of the Shadowlands. That's one of the things they talked about. How, you can look at it from a different perspective. But it's also interesting you're talking about this, though, because I was actually like looking this up. Here's an example of something we know, but we don't really know much about it. Emperor Thoradin the Ninth is the current ruler of the Empire. But what is he like? We've met the ghost of the original Thoradin. Does that ghost go over there and talk to his descendant? We know that their culture is born from the Arathi and Quel'Thalas. They're from both. They actually, a lot of them, like Farron herself, appear to be half elves, even though they wouldn't be half elves anymore. There's a bunch of elves and in their ancestry, but it's not like it's an elf and a human having kids. It's the Arathi having kids, and all those kids are like their parents at this point, right? Like, does that make sense?
No, it totally does.
You mentioned, do they have their own form of the Sunwell? Maybe they do. I mean, certainly they know, Quel'Thalas understood how to do it. There is a lot. You've got me thinking about, what if there's just a giant Naru?
You mean besides Belladar?
The Empire? Yeah, besides Belladar, which I actually think might be something more akin to Tempest Keep. Because we went inside the thing at this point, haven't we?
Nope.
No, we were in that chamber that was built like below it. Okay, yeah. But I mean, that thing reminds me an awful lot of like the Exodar or the giant Ashogun crystal. It really reminds me of the Ashogun crystal. You know, that gigantic thing in the middle of Draenor. What's the part of Draenor where that thing is found? I always forget which one it is.
Oh no,
it's the big green area that like you go there and you're like, wow, I guess this place isn't so dead. Oh wait, no, it's still terrible. Ashogun.
I'm gonna blank on it now, but go ahead.
Yeah, we know what I'm talking about. So yeah, I mean that's one of the things that the only thing Belladar hasn't done yet is had a bunch of spirits walking up to it and going, oh, I guess we're drawn here. That's the only thing it hasn't done that reminds me of Ashogun. So is it a Naru? I don't know. But for that matter, imagine if a Naru is the one sending visions to the Emperor, because they did that to Velen, when he found that crystal, that weird crystal artifact that he found that let him talk to the Naru. I'm just going to mention that too. Is there a reason that someone else is having visions of giant crystal things? You know what I'm saying here? We don't know. There's too many we don't knows, but it is at least feasible to think about that. I keep coming back to my idea that Anshe might have been Belladar. Like, I really don't think there's any reason to abandon that one. Like, I haven't seen anything that's made me say, oh, you know what? Oh, yeah, that's not true. Like, there's nothing about Belladar that is easy to understand.
Not yet, at least.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then
she was trying to take power out of Belladar.
She was. Or at least she was activating the cycle.
She was doing something to Belladar. I mean, she was right there. She had the heart. She was doing something with the heart, which to me says she was drawing power out of it.
Yeah, either she was drawing power out of it or she was trying to turn it into a larger version of the heart or something like that. Again, we don't know exactly what she was doing yet. I suspect...
The Exodar!
Go ahead.
You were talking about other places she might go. Mm-hmm. She wants to get off the planet and she wants to get power. The Exodar, it can leave now.
It has been repaired.
Yeah, the Exodar can leave now. The only problem is, do you want to go toe-to-toe with Velen on his home turf?
Well, and the interesting thing about that, though, too, and this is going to raise that question, we don't know that she can use a Naru.
That's true, we don't.
Right, we don't know that she could tip the balance without the Dark Heart. We don't know that she can face Velen on his home turf, because, I mean, my guess is that she probably can't. Velen is...
Certainly without the Dark Heart. As you pointed out, she doesn't currently have it, and the idea of her going toe-to-toe with Velen on the Exodar, without it, I don't see it.
Yeah, I don't see it either. And I mean, for all the people make fun of Velen, Velen is not weak. And like, he is probably one of the most powerful wielders of the light physically alive. Like, I would stake my claim on that. And I think maybe Anduin has maybe the potential to be a more powerful wielder, but not in his current state. Not yet.
They ain't there yet. Nope.
And I'm pretty sure if Velen decided that he wanted to call down upon a Wrath of Light upon Xal'atath, probably could. And that would probably hurt quite a little bit.
I mean, Velen went up. When we went there, Velen went with us right up to Kil'jaeden's ship.
Yeah.
He straight up walked onto that ship going, no, we're stopping you now.
Well, because think about it, right? Kil'jaeden was, his peer.
Yeah.
He just decided to take the fell deal instead of the light deal.
And the thing is that we would not have been able to kill Kil'jaeden
without him.
Without Velen.
Yeah.
It just wouldn't have been possible. Because Velen wasn't hitting him with light blasts constantly doesn't mean he wasn't doing something important. He was keeping most of Kil'jaeden's power off of us so that we could actually get it done. That is not weak. Kil'jaeden had literally the entire might of the Legion at his disposal.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
And still we beat him. And we beat him because Velen basically said no to 9 out of every 10 things Kil'jaeden tried to do. I mean, that's pretty significant because unlike Kil'jaeden, Velen didn't turn himself into a 300-foot tall fell monster. And yet he could still go toe-to-toe with him. That's pretty impressive. We saw him do a ton of stuff after that when we finally got back to Argus. Velen's heavily involved in a lot of it. I really feel like the main thing keeping Velen from being a much more dominant force in Azeroth is the fact that he has visions and they paralyze him because he doesn't know exactly what they mean. And he's talked about this. He has visions and he isn't sure what's going on, which is because that's the problem with the light, isn't it? The light wants one true path.
Mm-hmm.
If the visions aren't clear, then the light is like, wait, we got to clarify this. We got to figure out which way is the right way to go. So I think that's the only reason we don't have the Velen cup constantly up on our grill. And I think it's interesting that on the world where Velen died and he passed his power on, the person he passed his power on to kind of starts going crazy fanatic.
Yeah.
And she starts going crazy fanatic because she doesn't have Velen's experience with it.
Yeah, and
he's literally got 20,000 years of experience with this. She didn't have it.
Yeah, and think about that for a second too. Like, if that doesn't speak to how powerful he is as well, because again, all of those visions flooding into him. I know we're kind of going off on wild places here, folks, but bear with us. Like, he's able to deal with it, and even he is paralyzed by it. And the fact that, yeah, like you just pointed out, her psychosis.
Yeah, Yrel gets it. Yrel gets it and suddenly goes from one of the nicest people you will ever meet
to a genocidal maniac.
Yeah, to genocidal maniac. And keep in mind that could be an alternate future for her from her perspective. There could be a Yrel out there who's great. We still like Yrel, but it is telling that Yrel got the power, and within a generation, she's like, just burn it all down. I want to say X'Hal, but it's not X'Hal because that's Starfire's goddess in Teen Titans. But the mother Naru, Zera, thank you. Zera kind of like shows the danger of mainlining the light. You know, you see that Zera is not all,
right.
I don't want to say not all there, but not right is probably close. Zera is incapable of knowing doubt. She can't doubt. She doesn't have the capacity to do so. Once she saw a path, she could not say, hey, wait a minute, maybe this isn't the one true path. Maybe I need to stop and think. Velen can doubt. Velen is a mortal being who can make decisions for himself. And as a result, his doubt will keep him from taking action a lot of the time because he doesn't want to take the wrong action. And I think that's interesting because in a way, Xal'atath has become a being that can doubt. And that's why I think the Sunwell is the most likely direction to go, because she knows enough about it to convince herself that she can do it. And she's, without the dark heart currently in her possession, she needs something like it. I think you're dead on about that. So that's why I think that it's either the Sunwell or one of the Pillars of Creation, and we don't know enough about the Pillars of Creation to know even what they're currently even doing.
Yeah, and the other thing to point out there as well is that we are not saying that Xal'atath is weak, right? We're not
at all. Dude, we've seen what she can do, man. Come on.
Yeah, it's just that Xal'atath doesn't fight battles she can't win. Every battle, every encounter, everything that we deal with or interact with her is cultivated to be her being the victor. The two that we got the better of her, right? One, when the dark heart got damaged, that was not expected, and she thought she had won. And that was sort of just kind of off into the sunset she rode to go then have to deal with Gallywix to try to get her dark heart repaired. And two, she doesn't have the dark heart anymore because somebody else got the jump on her. So to Matt's point, her being in a place where she can feel doubt means that she's going to try, or at least we suspect she's going to try, to take the safer options. The options that she is confident that she can successfully pull off. And
in fact, you just make a really good point here.
Go ahead.
In that when you look at how she engaged in her hair campaign to date, it has been A, get other people to do what I want them to do. B, use cat's paws to draw the attention away from my real goal. And C, strike at an absolute moment of weakness or uncertainty amongst the people I'm trying to strike. When you see what happened to Dalaran, she did not go up to the Council of Six and go toe-to-toe with them because she knows that would be stupid.
Yeah, and when she fought Khadgar, she had to get the jump on him.
Yeah, one-on-one, I'm not saying that she would get wiped by Khadgar one-on-one. I'm saying that why risk it? You know what I mean? Like, even as Shara, who is powerful enough to blow up the entire Council of Six by herself, generally didn't ever try to do things like that. People with power understand risk in a way a lot of us don't have anything to risk in the comparison to them. It's like if a T-Rex met another T-Rex, they could fight, and they did fight. We have evidence of that on the bones, but they didn't fight very often. Because, oh yeah, I'm a huge, powerful killing machine, but so is that. And if I get hurt, if I'm weakened, now I'm vulnerable. That's a terrible thing to be. I don't want to be vulnerable. You think Xal'atath wants to be vulnerable? She just got out of a freaking knife that she was stuck in for 30, 50,000 years or so. She doesn't want to go back. She is not gonna choose something that doesn't suit her goal.
And think about this too, like she can't go and ask for help from anybody, right? N'Zoth,
no, who's there to ask?
She doesn't like the other old gods. N'Zoth is whatever we did to N'Zoth. And then her only other current known ally is Eridikron, and that's not somebody you go and ask for help. Like
no.
You don't go, hey, I lost this thing you got me, that you helped me get that was furthering our plans. So no, because you just die at that point. And she's powerful, but the whole thing with Eridikron is that he is insanely powerful. We don't know the depths of his power. And if I remember correctly, during Dragonflight, we find out that the only reason he was ever captured in the first place was he got tricked. Right?
Yeah, I absolutely agree. Yeah, Eridikron, I don't think Eridikron is necessarily, quote unquote, more powerful than Xal'atath, but I do think that his power is the kind that you do not want to go toe to toe with if you can avoid it.
Yeah, it's pure elemental power, right?
Yeah, and he's a gigantic freaking proto dragon on top of it.
Well, like you said, go ahead. When we went back to the Black Empire, when we went back and did that whole thing in N'Zoth Saw Us, remember how I pointed out who was the one elemental lord we didn't see? Therazane.
Yeah, we did not see Therazane. You're right.
Because Therazane couldn't be bothered. Because the old gods live in her sort of realm. And looking at it, she's the only one that, at least dealing with it, never really got fully subjugated. So if Eridikron has her as a patron, I'm willing to back that he can't be, that Xal'atath, even if she is more powerful, probably couldn't go to, you're right. It's a power that she can't mess with. And if
this is a guy who was able to command Shadow Flame.
Yeah,
he's able to bestow it upon another dragon. You know, he's very dangerous. In a lot of ways, he's like if you took Neltharion and added Malygos's insanity. You take everything Neltharion had going on in terms of his weird magical studies and use of the earth powers, and you add Malygos's insanity to the point where the old gods don't seem to be his patrons. He does not seem to be particularly interested in them or doesn't seem to serve them. He worked with her because he hates the Titans, not because he likes the old gods. And that, I think, is something you really need to keep in mind with Eridikron. I do think Eridikron will be back.
Oh, no, he 100% will. Absolutely.
Yeah. He's got a role to play in all this.
I mean, if anything, we're probably going to get him. My guess would be somewhere in the middle of midnight.
Yeah, it definitely feels like he could be a mid raid boss, a mid expansion boss.
Not even just a mid expansion boss, so like just showing up and setting up the final Titan or the last Titan, like setting up the final part of the World Soul Saga, because there's zero chance we are not dealing with him in the crescendo.
Oh yeah, it definitely feels like he will be back. Absolutely. But I mean, too, that's the thing about. I will point out, one up. You did ask us for wild speculation, so I don't feel too bad that you got that. I will say this though, I feel like Eridikron is going to be something where he might walk out of this entire thing. Like he might get past the final Titan, the last Titan. That might not even be his end, because this is a lore thing, not necessarily an in-game lore, but a studying lore thing. They need him.
Yeah.
Story-wise.
Well, it also makes sense too, like just even story-wise, right? Like even beyond just like knowing the lore and the trajectory, if we're going to be fighting the Titans at some point, which has been speculated that we're going to be essentially beating them up because they're, selfish idiots, that if we're technically at that point, we're on the same side as Eridikron. He wants to kill the Titans. So we're going to deal with him at some point. And I could totally see it being one of those things where we're fighting the Titans and we have to align with him even for a moment to have a fighting chance against Titans that have been ripped out of their prison, put into their own pocket dimension. They're free to go where they want to go. Sargeras is not, yet, at least. But they're free to come and go as they see fit, right?
You want to talk about fighting the Titans, though, dude. If the Titans are going to go to war, and
you're going to say the same thing. I'm thinking, go for it.
Yeah. If the Titans are going to go to war, who do you want leading your charge?
Your best warrior.
Your best warrior. Now, I love you. I mean, I love Agamar. I think he's great. But let's be real. Of the two, Agamar was always the shield man. He was always the guy on your side keeping you covered. It's Sargeras who is their best fighter.
Yep.
Always Sargeras. Sargeras didn't go down to any enemy. He didn't lose a fight ever. That's not what happened. He got tricked into thinking he should do something. And also, it's debatable whether he even got tricked.
Also, I should point out that he spent a lot of time brainwashing. Like when we saw Agamar, and he was able to brainwash Agamar. You think that the other Titans can't do that? We just talked about domination magic last time. We talked about the fact that seems to be order magic. Titans are pure order. You tell me that Aman'Thul can't go, cool, your brain's mine now, son, let's go. Like,
yeah. And for that matter, imagine if Aman'Thul does that, but doesn't realize he's opened the door for it to go both ways.
Yeah.
So now you have every one of the Titans except A&R is getting worse and worse. A&R is calling her girlfriend going, Elune, everybody seems to want to conquer everything all of a sudden. I kind of need another place to hide out. Like, there's a lot of ways it could go. But I'm telling you, Sargeras at the head of the Legion, at the head of the Titan army, you want a Ridicron. You need a Ridicron.
You need a Ridicron. You need a Ridicron, and whatever's powered up state is to keep Sargeras busy.
Yep. Just to occupy him. Because you can't beat the Titans conventionally. The goal is to convince them that they're screwing up.
Yeah, and think about it, and think about it too. Like, again, wild spec. We only have a couple minutes left, but going off that same thing. So Iridicron would have to come back, at least in my opinion, to, like, I agree with you, to keep Sargeras occupied. And if we're going to be fighting the Titans, we have a whole slew of freshly empowered entities that get their power from Azeroth, who is arguably the most powerful of the Titans, who probably isn't going to want to be destroyed. Just going to throw that out there. And so we have, I can never remember her name, but the Frost one that was empowered.
Viranoth.
I love Viranoth as far as
I actually remembered one.
Yeah. We have Viranoth. You have all of the other aspects of the Dragonflights that have been re-empowered with the power of Azeroth now, not the other Titans, the power of Azeroth. And Iridicron, arguably, because this is before, like, there's some bleed over there, may have that tenuous link with Azeroth as well. Because, again, Iridicron didn't want to destroy Azeroth. Iridicron wanted to get rid of the influence of the Titans.
And he doesn't think of Azeroth as a Titan because it is the world he lives on. And for that matter, we could be looking at the Titan equivalent of puberty here.
Yeah.
When the kid's like, I don't need you. You don't get to tell me what to do anymore.
You don't understand me, Dad. I'm going to listen to my music in my room. Yeah.
Yep. And I keep coming back to this idea that the way to win against the Titans isn't to defeat them. It's to convince them to go hands off.
Yeah.
And I think that you mentioned Agamar being brainwashed. I think ultimately it is Agamar who will be the one to be able to convince the other Titans, not only that their judgment isn't currently the best, like, look at us, look at what we're doing, but also, look, we did what we set out to do.
Yeah.
We wanted to make this place so that it wouldn't fall to the void, and it didn't fall to the void.
Yeah, and I feel like A&R is involved in that conversation too, because that was always her deal, right? Like Aman'Thul didn't like it because he didn't like the wild, uncontrollable nature of things, but yet that's what allows us to do everything we do. Then you have the Consulars who will be chiming in at that point as well, showing, they're better than you in every capacity. They've defeated the odds. They have literally done what you calculated was impossible multiple times. So A&R's right, Agamar's right. You need to STFU.
Yeah, it is time for us to back off. It is time for us to let Azeroth determine its own destiny because it is the final Titan.
And then combining that with the Pantheon of Death, where like we literally are in Zereth Mortis, and I still am convinced, absolutely still am convinced that Azeroth is what the first one's intended. That literally you come back with the information. Not only that, but you guys know about the first ones. This is the success of that. Back off. Goal accomplished. Go away.
Yeah, we did what we had to do to prevent it from falling into the hands of one force, but we're dangerously close to trying to push it into another one, and we can't do that
because then it's not what it needs
that is
to be
not going to work.
Yeah,
I think that's the only way to really deal with the Titans. I don't think you can kill them because at this point we've seen what happens when they get killed.
They
just throw their souls somewhere else. And I think that to a degree, doing so would be incredibly dangerous. Having a bunch of Titans die on Azeroth, who knows how much, like, if the Titans show up to fight on Azeroth in their original bodies or something approximating them, you're effed.
It does make me one last question that we're not going to answer today, but I want to leave with this one question for everybody to think about until we get back next week. Where does Odin fit in all this?
Hopefully under my boot.
But I think we're going to end it there, friends. Blizzard Watch is made possible due to the generous contributions at patreon.com/BlizzardWatch. Your continued support means that this podcast signing community is able to thrive and grow. Blizzard Watch supporters enjoy exclusive benefits like early access to our podcast, better chance at having your question answered on our podcast with a Q&A and ads-free site experience. Again, if you have questions for this or any of our podcasts, please be sure to send those into podcast@blizzardwatch.com. Specify the show that it is for in the subject line, as well as any special pronunciation of your name. You can also hit us up on Discord. We have the Q and Podcast Questions channel, which is open for everybody. Same rules apply. If you are a Patreon subscriber, you can hit us up on the Patron Q and Podcast Questions channel, as well as hitting us up directly on Patreon. If you have something you want us to go wild tinfoil hat theory on, go ahead and send that in too. Give us some nuggets to work with. And I will say this because I know that this has been asked, I think 3 or 4 times now by one of our listeners. Luke, you are not being ignored. It's probably just going to be a larger episode that we are preparing for. So don't worry. We'll get to your snake folks. Hang in there, bud.
Yeah, I mean, we do absolutely want to talk about them.
But it's going to take us a while. We have to figure out what angle we're going to tack it on. But with that, folks, we'll see you next week.